The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is undoubtedly one of the big reasons that many people bought the Nintendo Switch. It's also available on the Wii U of course, but while that version acts as a swan song, on the Switch it's many gamers' first step into a new world and all of the potential that that can bring. The real question is, does the game itself live up to all of that hype and expectation? From the moment you turn on the game, you're greeted with a slightly different style to what you might have been used to from previous Zelda games, or if it's your first time out and venturing as Link, then you might notice a few similarities between it and other adventure games of more recent years. Breath of the Wild really manages to straddle the line between staying true to the franchise itself and stepping into something new. As you start the game, you begin in a single area, but soon the map opens up and you can pretty much travel anywhere you want. This freedom is something which really flows through the entire game and is a signature part of the experience. While there are prompts and tutorials, there's not a lot of handholding here. As soon as you've got your hands on the glider, if you do decide to be bold and strike out on your own, then there's plenty of exciting things to discover across the map. The world of Hyrule is surprisingly diverse, from harsh deserts to snowy mountaintops, and you'll need to equip Link for the journey if you really want to feel like a true adventurer. There's a fairly standard array of weapons and some familiar items, and as you progress you'll start to get familiar with the things that you need most. Exploration is key, particularly at the earlier stages of the game, in finding new weapons and armour. At the same time, if you do take on a challenge which is a little bit too much for you, the autosave system is pretty forgiving if you do end up dying, which happens fairly frequently. The fairly familiar style of interaction with NPCs returns to this Zelda, but there's also fully voiced cutscenes, which really adds a different dimension to the story. The characters themselves are engaging and often pretty mental, but generally you're not required to spend too much time with them. You'll also find that most characters know more about what's going on than you do, as you really live the world through Link's eyes. After napping for 100 years, Link's woken up not really remembering anything about what happened beforehand, which makes it an easy entry point for new players. Most of your time in the game will be spent exploring the vast map, which allows you to just pick a point in the horizon and then travel all the way there. It's easy to exaggerate how significant a development this is, but it really goes a long way to making the world feel fully realised. As you travel around, you do unlock a couple of different kinds of fast travel points, so you don't end up just wandering about endlessly. Sheikah Shrines, a series of small challenge rooms which each focus on either puzzles or combat, are littered through the entire world and offer you spirit orbs on completion. 4 of these will net you a bit more stamina or another heart, which makes them important for progression through the game. There's also Sheikah Towers, which unlock large sections of the map, similar to what you might find in an Ubisoft open world game. The fact that you can invest a long time in a game like this and not necessarily achieve much in terms of the overall story is really a testament to how well the game responds to your needs. If you just want to amble about and do some hunting, the game doesn't pressure you into following the main storyline, and many players will end up investing hundreds of hours to unlock the 120 shrines alone. The game isn't without its faults, of course. The frame rate while docked on a Switch is slightly choppy at times, particularly during weather, and there certainly could be more variety in terms of the enemies and tactics used. But if you take this game for what it is, which is effectively my first open world adventure game, then it really starts to make sense a lot of the different creative choices that Nintendo have made. While there is tension and there are stakes, there's not a lot of pressure, which can really sap momentum for some open world games, depending on the player. In all, there's hours and hours of content here to consume while we wait patiently for more Switch games to be released. While it isn't necessarily an ideal situation, that's not really Zelda's fault, and being the best Nintendo game out now is fully deserved. There's so much care and attention put into every detail that it's really difficult not to recommend. If you've been playing Breath of the Wild, leave us a comment below and tell us your story. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe for more from Pass the Controller.